Buddhism, a journey through time and the human heart. If we close our eyes for just a moment and imagine a world stripped of noise, stripped of the endless race for possession, power, and pride, what remains? What do we hear within ourselves, beyond the surface of thought and fleeting emotion? There, in that tender, fragile silence, lies a question older than civilization itself. Why do we suffer? This question, simple yet piercing, is the beating heart of a tradition that has traveled across time, continents, and cultures for over 2.5 millennia. Buddhism, born from the anguished yet compassionate inquiry of a single man, now touches the lives of over 500 million people. But beyond the numbers, beyond the statues, the monasteries, and the rituals, there is a story of a prince who became a wanderer, of a man who became awakened, and of a teaching that invites each of us to wake up from the painful dream we call existence. Let me take you back, not just geographically, but spiritually, to the lush plains of northern India, about 2,500 years ago. The kingdom of Kapilavastu, near what we now call Nepal, was prosperous, vibrant, and steeped in the rites and beliefs of Vedic traditions. In the palace of King Hudodana, a son was born, Siddhartha Gautama. His birth was surrounded by omens and prophecies, the most poignant of which declared that he would either become a great king, conquering lands and peoples, or he would renounce the world to become a great spiritual teacher, a Buddha. His father, perhaps like any parent, wished for his son to embrace the throne, the worldly path of power and legacy. The king spared no effort to shield Siddhartha from the harsher realities of life. The prince was cloistered in palatial pleasure, surrounded by beauty, youth, music, and art. Pain, sickness, old age, and death, these were carefully hidden from him, as if ignorance could guard the heart forever. But life, by its very nature, defies such control. One day, as the story goes, Siddhartha ventured beyond the walls of the palace, and there on the dusty roads, among the common folk, he saw what he had never seen before: a sick person, an old person, a corpse, and a wandering ascetic. In those four sights, his sheltered world cracked wide open. He saw not just individual fates, but the inescapable condition of all beings. Health succumbs to illness, youth decays into old age, life ends in death, and yet there are those who seek, who wander in search of answers. This was the seed of his great renunciation. One night, under the heavy cloak of darkness and determination, Siddhartha left behind his wife, his newborn son, and his royal comforts. He ventured into the unknown, wearing the simple robes of an ascetic. His quest was not for power or fame, but for the end of suffering, not just for himself, but for all beings. For 6 long years, he sought teachers, practiced extreme austerities, starved himself, meditated under blazing suns and chilling nights, trying to break through the walls of delusion and pain. But the answers remained elusive. Siddhartha realized that neither indulgence in pleasures nor tormenting the body could lead to awakening. Thus, he sat beneath a Bodhi tree, vowing not to rise until he had pierced the truth. And there, in the stillness of his mind, after battles with doubt, fear, and desire, he awoke. What did he awaken to? Not to a divine revelation from an external God, but to the Dharma, the law of nature, the deep interwoven fabric of reality itself. He saw the world as it truly was: impermanent, interconnected, arising and passing away. He saw the 4 noble truths, the essence of all his teaching. Life is suffering, dukkha, not in a pessimistic sense, but in the honest recognition that life, as we cling to it, is unsatisfactory. Joys fade, loved ones depart, the body withers, the mind grows anxious. There is a cause to suffering: our cravings, our ignorance, our endless thirst for things to be other than they are. There is an end to suffering by letting go of craving, by seeing things as they truly are. There is a path to that end, the noble eightfold path, a balanced way of living, cultivating ethics, meditation, and wisdom. This awakening was not a private treasure, but a light he offered to the world. The man who was Siddhartha became the Buddha, the awakened one. He gathered disciples, taught in forests and cities, to kings and paupers alike, sharing the path not as a commandment, but as an invitation. But why, you might ask, does this story still matter? Why does a wandering monk's realization, beneath a tree so many centuries ago, continue to ripple through human hearts? Because suffering has not ended. Because we are still caught in the same nets of desire, aversion, and confusion. Because the tender ache of the human condition, the yearning for peace, the fear of loss, the sting of impermanence remains unchanged, and yet, within that ache, there is hope. The Buddha did not offer blind faith, nor did he declare himself a god. He was a man who looked deeply and saw clearly. His teachings, the Dharma, are not chains but keys to understanding ourselves and the world. Over the centuries, as Buddhism traveled across Asia from India to Sri Lanka, from China to Japan, from Tibet to Mongolia, it changed. It adapted, mingled with local cultures, absorbed philosophies, and gave rise to diverse schools of thought and practice. Sometimes it became scholarly and complex, sometimes simple and devotional, but at its core remained the gentle yet radical insight. Everything is impermanent, everything is connected, and peace is possible. When Western scholars first encountered Buddhism, they struggled to categorize it. Is it a religion, a philosophy, a way of life? Figures like Charles Hardwick, steeped in Christian frameworks, saw it as a cold, godless system or philosophy rather than a religion. After all, there is no creator God, no divine commandments, no eternal soul in Buddhism. But such a view misses the pulse, the living heart of the tradition. To call Buddhism merely a philosophy is to reduce it to the intellect. To call it a religion, in the Western sense, is to risk misunderstanding its openness, its fluidity, its emphasis on direct experience. Perhaps it is both, or neither. Perhaps it is, as the Buddha himself often said, a rafter means to cross the turbulent river of existence. At the center of this raft are the three jewels, the triple refuge that every Buddhist, regardless of school or sect, turns to: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. To take refuge in the Buddha is not merely to worship a distant figure, but to recognize the possibility of awakening within ourselves. To take refuge in the Dharma is to commit to understanding reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. To take refuge in the Sangha is to walk this path in the company of others, fellow travelers, who remind us that we are not alone. In the following chapters of our journey, we will explore each of these jewels in depth. We will see how the Buddha's teachings evolved into the many forms we know today: Theravada, the teaching of the elders in Southeast Asia; Mabina, the great vehicle in East Asia; and the vibrant, mystical world of Tibetan Buddhism. We will delve into their sacred texts, their meditative practices, their cultural expressions, but most importantly, we will keep asking the question that gave birth to it all: how can we, in this brief, fragile life, find freedom from suffering? This is not just the story of a religion, it is the story of the human heart, in all its yearning, its brokenness, and its astonishing capacity for awakening. So, let us walk together, step by step, with curiosity and reverence, through the vast and varied landscape of Buddhism. For in understanding it, we might just come to understand ourselves. We left our story beneath the sprawling branches of the Bodhi tree, where the morning star rose to greet not just another day, but a new consciousness and awakened mind that had seen the world as it truly is. The Buddha's eyes opened, not in the ordinary sense, but in a way that shattered all illusions. He sat there, alone yet profoundly connected to all that lives, tasting a peace so deep that the winds of change could not disturb it. But the story of Buddhism did not end there. It was just beginning. You see, enlightenment, though deeply personal, was never meant to be kept hidden. Yet, even the Buddha himself hesitated at first. He looked at the world, so caught in craving, hatred, and ignorance, and wondered, who will understand? Would anyone be able to grasp such a subtle and profound truth? For days, he remained silent, pondering this question, while the universe itself, the legends say, held its breath. Then, a plea from the gods, or perhaps from the very heart of existence, reached him: please, teach. There are those with just a little dust in their eyes who will understand. And so, the Buddha rose and began to walk, not with the gait of a conqueror, but with the quiet steps of a teacher. His first sermon, the Dhammacoppa Sutta, the turning of the wheel of Dharma, was given in the deer park of Sarnath, to a small group of ascetics who had once been his companions in austerity. There, he laid out the Four Noble Truths and the middle way, rejecting both sensual indulgence and self-mortification. On that humble setting, the Sangha community of awakened seekers was born. Imagine it: no temples, no golden statues, no elaborate rituals, just a group of men and, later, women, renouncing worldly life to walk together, learning, meditating, living with simplicity under the trees and in caves. Their days were filled with alms, rounds, mindful reflection, and deep discussions on the nature of reality. They were wanderers, yes, but also custodians of a truth that would ripple across the world. But what was it that made the Buddha's message so revolutionary, so enduring? At its heart was the recognition of impermanence, anicca. Everything changes: our bodies, our thoughts, the seasons, the stars. Nothing stands still. Clinging to what is transient, the Buddha taught, is like trying to hold water in your hands. Slips through your fingers, leaving only frustration and sorrow. Closely tied to this was the teaching of non-self unetta, the radical idea that there is no permanent, unchanging self within us. We are not fixed entities, but ever-changing processes, sensations, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness arising and ceasing in a dance of causes and conditions. To realize this is to loosen the grip of ego, to see that the I we so fiercely defend is just a convenient fiction. And then there was dukkha, often translated as suffering, but also encompassing dissatisfaction, stress, unease. Life, when grasped and resisted, is inherently tinged with this dukkha, not because life is cruel, but because we expect it to be otherwise. But the Buddha did not stop at diagnosis. He offered a cure, the Noble Eightfold Path, a practical guide to living with wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. Right view, seeing the world through the lens of impermanence, suffering, and right intention, cultivating thoughts of renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness. Right speech, speaking truthfully, kindly, and helpfully. Right action, acting in ways that promote well-being and avoid harm. Right livelihood, earning a living in a manner that does not cause suffering. Right effort, persistently cultivating wholesome states of mind. Right mindfulness, maintaining awareness of body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. Right concentration, developing deep meditative absorption jhana. These 8 strands are not steps to be climbed, one after another, but threads woven together to create a life of freedom and clarity. As the Buddha wandered the Gangetic plains, his fame grew, but so did misunderstandings. He was revered by kings and commoners, yet also challenged by rival teachers. His message was simple yet profound, cutting through the social hierarchies of caste and privilege. Anyone, regardless of birth, could walk the path. Liberation was not reserved for the Brahmin elite, it was available to all who earnestly practiced. Over the next 45 years, until his passing at the age of 80, the Buddha built a living community. He taught lay people how to live ethically, generously, and mindfully within their worldly lives. He instructed monastics in the discipline of the Vinaya, a code of conduct that kept the Sangha cohesive and focused. But perhaps the most touching aspect of his journey is his humanness. The Buddha was not immune to the aches of the body, the pain of seeing loved ones die, the challenges of leading a diverse community. Yet he met each moment with equanimity, compassion, and insight. In his final days, lying between twin sal trees, surrounded by disciples, he did not claim divine grandeur. His last words were a gentle yet powerful reminder: all conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence. With that, the awakened one passed into parinirvana, final peace beyond birth and death. But the flame did not extinguish. His teachings, preserved in the memories and recitations of his disciples, began their own journey, a journey that would carry them far beyond the dusty paths of India. As the Sangha spread, so too did interpretations and adaptations of the Dharma. Different cultures, languages, and philosophies began to shape how the teachings were understood and practiced. What remained consistent, however, was the refuge in the 3 jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We will explore these jewels in detail soon, but for now, let us pause and reflect. What does it mean to awaken? Not in some distant, mystical sense, but here and now in our ordinary lives. To awaken is to see clearly, to live gently, to love without clinging, to let go without fear. It is to sit with the inevitable pain of life without turning it into suffering. It is to touch the fleeting beauty of existence, not with grasping, but with gratitude. Perhaps that is why the story of the Buddha moves so many to tears, not because it is ancient, but because it is timeless. It is the story of each of us, seeking light in the darkness, peace amidst chaos, truth amidst illusion. So, dear listener, as we continue this journey through the history, teachings, and heart of Buddhism, I invite you to keep this question alive within you. What would it mean for me, in this very life, to wake up? we have wandered together through the early life of the Buddha, through his awakening beneath the Bodhi tree, and along the dusty roads where his teachings first echoed in the ears of eager disciples. Now, let us step closer into the very soul of Buddhism, into the three jewels, or as they are known in the ancient tongue of Pali-Tiratana. Imagine yourself, centuries ago, standing beneath a twilight sky in a quiet grove, where monks gather in saffron robes, their heads shaven, their faces luminous with a quiet resolve. They bow not before idols of gold, but before the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. In this act of refuge, there is no submission, no blind faith, but an intimate gesture of trust, a recognition that the path out of suffering requires guidance, truth, and community. First jewel, the Buddha. To take refuge in the Buddha is more than honoring a historical figure who lived in the 5th century BCE. It is to recognize within ourselves the potential for awakening. The Buddha was a man, not a god, but through his relentless search, his profound insight, and his boundless compassion, he became the awakened one. He showed that enlightenment is not bestowed by divine favor, but achieved through understanding, through seeing things as they are. Every time we face our suffering with honesty, every time we choose kindness over cruelty, mindfulness over distraction, we are, in a small way, walking the Buddha's path. And yet, the story of the Buddha is not just inspiration, it is an invitation to see that beneath layers of confusion, distraction, and pain, there lies a luminous clarity within us, all a Buddhanacha, waiting patiently. Second jewel, the Dharma, is often translated as the teaching, but it is far more than a set of doctrines or moral codes. It is the deep, underlying truth of how things are. The Dharma is the law of nature, the rhythm of existence, the reality that everything is impermanent, interconnected, and without a fixed self. When we say, "I take refuge in the Dharma," we are pledging to live in alignment with reality, not with delusion. We are committing to see through the veils we wrap around ourselves, the stories we tell about who we are, what we need, what we fear. The Dharma teaches that suffering arises from tanha, craving, the restless thirst that drives us to chase pleasures, possessions, and experiences, thinking they will make us whole. But wholeness cannot be found in what is transient. It arises when we see the fleeting nature of all things and rest in the peace that comes with nan-grasping. Through the Dharma, the Buddha laid out maps, the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, the teachings on impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anat. These are not just ideas to be believed, but truths to be tasted, like water sipped from cupped hands. And if we follow these maps with sincerity, we begin to see that suffering is not a punishment nor a fate, but a signal that we are clinging to shadows when we could be embracing the light. Third jewel, the Sangha, the community of practitioners, is the third jewel, the living embodiment of the path. It is said that when the Buddha founded the Sangha, he created not just a group, but a family of the heart. Imagine monks and nuns walking barefoot through forests and villages, living on the generosity of strangers, carrying nothing but a bowl, robes, and a mind dedicated to awakening. Their lives were and still are an expression of the Dharma in motion, simplicity, discipline, mindfulness. But the Sangha is not just monastics. In a broader sense, it includes all those who walk the path with earnestness, practitioners, teachers, fellow seekers. We are not meant to wake up alone. We need each other, to reflect, to support, to challenge, to remind one another when we forget. In refuge with the Sangha, we find belonging not in shared beliefs, but in shared aspiration. It is here that the human heart remembers that we are not solitary beings adrift in an indifferent cosmos. We are threads in a vast, intricate tapestry, each action affecting the whole. The power of refuge. To take refuge is a profound act, especially in a world where we are taught to seek refuge in wealth, status, pleasure, or fleeting distractions. Yet, these refuges betray us, they crumble, they vanish, leaving us more lost. But the three jewels offer a refuge that endures, not because they shield us from life's storms, but because they teach us to stand within the storm, unshaken. The Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha form a compass, pointing us back to the heart, back to the possibility that peace is not something to be acquired, but something to be uncovered. A story of refuge there is an ancient story told among Buddhist circles about a young man who came to the Buddha, distraught and weeping. He had lost his beloved, his heart torn by grief. He pleaded with the Buddha, "Please, great teacher, bring her back. Work your miracles. Restore her to life." The Buddha, gazing with deep compassion, said, "I will grant your wish, but first, you must bring me a single mustard seed from a household where no one has died." The young man rushed from home to home, village to village, seeking such a house. But at every door, he was met with the same answer: "We too have lost. We too have wept." Eventually, the man returned, his hands empty, but his heart opened. He understood, not through lectures, but through life, that death, loss, impermanence are woven into the very fabric of existence. This is the Dharma, not a doctrine to memorize, but a truth to live. And in realizing this, the young man took refuge not to escape grief, but to meet it with wisdom and compassion. You, the seeker, and so I ask you, the listener, wherever you are, whoever you are, carrying whatever burdens you bear, what is your refuge? Where do you go when the nights are long, when the heart is heavy? To take refuge in the three jewels is not to abandon the world, but to live in it with eyes wide open, to walk with a steady step, even when the path is uncertain. It is to say, I will seek clarity, like the Buddha. I will seek truth, like the Dharma. I will seek companionship, like the Sangha. These jewels are not distant relics, they are alive, here, now, waiting for you to pick them up, to let their light illuminate the shadows within. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how these teachings, these refuges, took root in different lands, transforming, adapting, yet remaining deeply faithful to their essence. We will walk through the ancient forests of Sri Lanka, the monasteries of China, the silent halls of Japan, the snow-capped mountains of Tibet. For Buddhism, like the rivers of the world, flows in many streams, yet all lead back to the same ocean, the ocean of awakening. We have taken refuge together, you and I, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We have stood beneath the shade of the ancient Bodhi tree. We have sat at the Buddha's feet as he turned the wheel of Dharma for the first time. We have felt the trembling truth of impermanence, of suffering, of the path that leads beyond it. But the story of Buddhism does not remain still. Like a seed carried by the wind, it traveled across rivers, over mountains, through the corridors of power, and the humble huts of peasants. With every place it landed, it took new forms, wore new colors, spoke new languages, and yet it remained true to its root, the human longing to wake up, to be free from the restless ache that shadows our lives. Let us now begin this next chapter of our journey, the spread of Buddhism across the world. The first voyage, Theravada Buddhism or first path, leads us southward to the golden shores of Sri Lanka, the emerald jewel of the Indian Ocean. Here, around the 3rd century BCE, the teachings of the Buddha took firm root, carried by Mahinda, the son of the great Indian Emperor Ashoka himself, once a ruthless conqueror, was transformed by the Dharma after witnessing the horrific carnage of war. In his remorse, he became one of history's first great patrons of Buddhism, sending missionaries far and wide not to conquer by sword, but to liberate by wisdom. In Sri Lanka, Buddhism blossomed into Theravada, often called the teaching of the elders. It is regarded as the most ancient and conservative school, striving to preserve the earliest teachings of the Buddha, recorded in the Pali Canon, an immense collection of discourses, rules, and philosophical treatises. Theravada is meticulous in its discipline, emphasizing the monastic life as the most direct path to enlightenment. Monks shave their heads, don ochre robes, live on alms, and spend their days in meditation, study, and teaching. Yet, the lay community plays a crucial role to supporting the monks with food and shelter, and in return, receiving guidance and teachings. In countries like Thailand, Myanmar, Burma, Cambodia, and Laos, Theravada became not just a religion, but a way of life. The morning alms rounds, the rhythmic chants, the quiet presence of temples at the heart of every village. All these are living expressions of the Dharma. But beyond the rituals and structures, Theravada carries a profound message that enlightenment is a personal journey, a long path of many lives, each shaped by karma, the moral law of cause and effect. The Buddha is revered not as a god, but as a supreme teacher, a human being who reached the pinnacle of what is possible for us all. The great vehicle Mabhyena Buddhism. Yet, as Buddhism traveled northward into the vast and ancient land of China, and from there to Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, it evolved into what is known as Mabhyena, the great vehicle. The name itself suggests a broader, more inclusive path, one that aspires not just for individual liberation, but for the awakening of all beings. Mabiyana introduced new scriptures, the Mabiyana Sutras, vast, poetic, often cosmic in their vision here. The figure of the Buddha transcends the historical Siddhartha Gautama, becoming an eternal presence, an embodiment of universal wisdom and compassion. Central to Mabiyana is the ideal of the Bodhisattva, one who vows to attain enlightenment not for their own release, but to guide all beings across the turbulent sea of suffering. Imagine someone standing at the gates of nirvana, ready to step through, but turning back, holding out their hand to help others across first. That is the Bodhisattva's heart. Among the many expressions of Mabiyana, two particularly profound schools emerged. Zen Chan in China, a tradition that cuts through words and scriptures, pointing directly to the mind itself. See your true nature, it says, and you will become Buddha. Zen is known for its paradoxical koans, its emphasis on meditation, and its quiet, austere beauty. Think of a solitary monk, sweeping leaves, a cup of tea served in silence, the sudden sound of a temple belch, a gateway to awakening. Pure Land Buddhism, a path of faith and devotion, centered on a Mitva Buddha, the Buddha of infinite light, who vows that all who sincerely call upon his name will be reborn. In his Western Pure Lander realm where enlightenment is assured, in societies marked by hardship, this teaching offered hope and solace that liberation was not only for scholars and monks, but for farmers, laborers, and the weary-hearted. The diamond path, Vajrayana. Buddhism. Farther still, in the icy heights of Tibet, Buddhism encountered the indigenous-born traditions and gave birth to Vajrayana, the diamond vehicle or thunderbolt vehicle. Here, the Dharma took on a rich tapestry of rituals, visualizations, mantras, and esoteric practices aimed at achieving enlightenment swiftly. Sometimes, even within a single lifetime, Vajrayana holds that the passions and energies that bind us to suffering can be transformed, like turning poison into medicine. It is a path of profound depth, requiring initiation and guidance from seasoned teachers known as lamas, the most famous of whom, to the world, is the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism. In the monasteries of Lhasa, amid the spinning of prayer wheels and the whisper of mantras, one can sense a vibrancy, a living, breathing path where every act, every sound, every image is a tool for awakening. Buddhism's adaptation and resilience across these diverse forms thereof, Mabiyana, Vajrayana, Buddhism has shown an extraordinary ability to adapt, to absorb local customs without losing its essence. Whether in the incense-filled temples of Japan, the gilded stupas of Myanmar, or the remote hermitages of the Himalayas, the pulse of the Dharma remains. Wake up, see clearly, love deeply. It is said that when the Buddha taught, he did not give the same teaching to everyone. Like a skilled physician, he prescribed according to the ailment. Some needed direct insight, others needed stories, rituals, or a gradual path. This is the beauty of Buddhism, meets you where you are, offering many doors to the same house. Modern encounter. And now, dear listener, the Dharma has traveled yet again into the modern world, into the West, into the digital age where you and I meet across screens and voices. Meditation apps, mindfulness programs, books, podcasts, the Dharma whispers in new forms. Yet, amidst this global spread, the question remains as alive as ever. What is suffering? What is its end? And just as it did under the Bodhi tree, the answer begins, not with belief, but with looking deeply honestly. Within as we continue our journey, we will explore the core themes that bind all these traditions together. Teachings on impermanence, the nature of the mind, the practices of meditation and mindfulness. We will see how Buddhism speaks not just to monks in distant lands, but to anyone who dares to ask, is there more to life than this restless craving, this endless striving? Perhaps, by the end of this journey, you will find not just knowledge, but a new way of seeing, a glimpse of your own Buddha nature, shining quietly beneath the dust of everyday life. Now that we have crossed mountains, rivers, and centuries together, seeing how Buddhism has worn many faces and spoken many tongues, we arrive at the heart of its universal wisdom, the teachings that, no matter the form or the school, return us to the same simple yet profound truths. At the center of this wisdom is one hauntingly beautiful understanding. Everything is impermanent. Everything we see, touch, and love, every mountain, every star, every breath is fleeting. And yet, we live as if this were not so. We cling, we grasp, we resist change as though our hearts could hold time still. This is the great tragedy and the great opportunity the Buddha saw. He did not teach us to deny change, but to see it, to embrace it, to ride its waves rather than drown beneath them. For in impermanence lies not just sorrow but also possibility. The storm does not last. The winter gives way to spring. The heart, though broken, heals, but there is another truth intertwined with impermanence, dependent origination, or interconnectedness. Nothing arises on its own. The tree grows because of the soil, the sun, the rain, the countless processes we cannot see. Likewise, we are who we are because of infinite causes. Our parents, our culture, the air we breathe, the food we eat, the kindness of strangers, the grief of loss. In the Buddha's words, when this is, that is. When this ceases, that ceases. There is no isolated self, no permanent essence that exists apart from the web of life. We are interbeing, as the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully put it. The cloud becomes rain, the rain becomes tea, the tea becomes you. To see this is to let go of the rigid boundaries of I and mine. It is to live with humility, knowing that we are part of something vast and mysterious. And it is to live with compassion, because how can we harm another when we see that the other is also ourselves? The nature of suffering, yet even with this wisdom, suffering still arises. The Buddha never promised a life without pain, but he showed that pain and suffering are not the same. Pain is the wound. Suffering is the story we wrap around it. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. When we stub our toe, we feel pain. But when we begin to curse the world, to resent our clumsiness, to spiral into irritation, that is suffering. The Buddha taught that by seeing things clearly, by understanding the causes of our reactions, we can meet pain with equanimity, even with love. This is where the practice of mindfulness sati enters. To be mindful is to be fully present, to see the breath as it is, the thought as it is, the emotion as it is, the emotion as it is, without clinging, without pushing away. When walking, just walk. When sitting, just sit. Above all, don't wobble. This Zen saying captures the heart of mindfulness. Be where you are, fully. Life is not happening elsewhere, is happening now, in this step, this breath, this fleeting moment. The Eightfold Path, a compass for life to guide us. The Buddha offered the Noble Eightfold Path, which we touched upon before, but let us now linger with each of its steps, as though we are walking alongside the Buddha himself. On a quiet forest path, right view, understanding the Four Noble Truths, seeing life through the lens of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Right intention, cultivating intentions of renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness. Right speech, speaking truthfully, kindly, and meaningfully. Right action, living ethically, voiding, killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Right livelihood, earning a living in ways that do not harm others. Right effort, diligently cultivating positive states of mind and letting go of negative ones. Right mindfulness, being fully aware of body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. Right concentration, developing deep meditative absorption, leading to insight. These are not commandments from a god, but guideposts from a fellow human who found his way through the maze of suffering. They remind us that the path is not about escape, but about engagement, living with clarity, kindness, and presence. Meditation, the art of coming home. But the heart of Buddhist practice is meditation, not as an escape from the world, but as the way of returning home to ourselves. Whether it is Vipassana insight meditation, Zazen, Zen sitting, or Tonglen, the Tibetan practice of sending and receiving compassion, meditation trains the mind to see without distortion. When we sit in stillness, watching the breath, the mind wanders. We bring it back. Again, it wanders. We bring it back. This simple act is an act of lover training in patience, in returning, in not giving up on ourselves. Over time, meditation reveals the mind's patterns, the grasping, the aversion, the endless chatter, and slowly, like mist lifting from a mountain, clarity dawns. We begin to see that thoughts are just thoughts, feelings are just feelings, not facts, not identity. In that seeing, there is freedom. Compassion, the heart of wisdom. Yet, wisdom alone is not enough. In Buddhism, wisdom and compassion are two wings of the same bird. To see the emptiness of self is not to become cold or detached, but to open the heart wider than ever before. Consider the Bodhisattva, Kuan Yin Avalokiteshvara, the embodiment of compassion in Mahayana Buddhism. It is said that she hears the cries of the world and responds with infinite mercy. Her many arms symbolize the myriad ways compassion can act. Her 1,000 eyes see the suffering hidden even behind smiles. To be compassionate is not merely to feel sorry for others, but to recognize that their suffering is not separate from ours. It is to act, to serve, to love not because we are saints, but because we are human. The promise of awakening. And so, dear listener, you might ask, can I awaken? Is this path for me? The Buddha's answer, echoed by countless teachers across time, is clear. Yes, awakening is not for the special, the chosen, the few. It is for anyone who looks deeply, who lives mindfully, who loves courageously. You don't need to abandon your life, your family, your work. The Dharma is not somewhere else, it is here, in the way you speak to your child, in the attention you give to washing a dish, in the patience you offer yourself when you stumble. In each moment, we are offered a choice, to sleepwalk through life or to wake up. As we prepare to journey further into the living expressions of Buddhism in the modern world, let us pause and breathe together. Feel this breath. Notice its rise and fall. In this breath is life, is impermanence, is connection. Perhaps in this very breath is the beginning of your awakening. By now, dear listener, we have walked far together. We have watched the Buddha walk barefoot under the Bodhi tree, seen the early Sangha wandering through forests and villages, heard the resonance of chanting in Theravada monasteries, the quiet discipline of Zen gardens, and the thunder of mantras across the Tibetan plateau. We have learned of impermanence, of the emptiness of self, of the compass of the Eightfold Path, and the transformative power of compassion. But what of now? What of our world, noisy and fractured, fast and restless? Where does Buddhism live amidst the buzz of smartphones, the chaos of cities, the pulse of global crises? Let us begin this chapter by traveling to the West, not a place but a perspective. When Buddhism met the West, it encountered a culture steeped in individualism, in scientific inquiry, in philosophical skepticism, but it also found disillusioned with materialism, yearning for meaning beyond consumption, beyond the empty chase for success. Buddhism meets the West. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw Buddhist texts translated into English, French, German. Scholars, adventurers, and mystics began to study them, often with a romantic or exotic gaze. But the real transformation began when teachers from Asia crossed the seas. D.T. Suzuki brought Zen to the curious minds of America and Europe. His lectures, his presence, planted seeds in the hearts of poets, philosophers, and artists. Thich Nhat Hanh, with his gentle smile and deep mindfulness, introduced the West to the practice of engaged Buddhism teaching. That peace is not a distant goal but a present practice. The Dalai Lama, exiled from Tibet, became not just a political figure but a global ambassador of compassion, tirelessly reminding the world that kindness is the foundation of peace. Meanwhile, in the United States, teachers like Jack Kornfield, Sharon Salzberg, and Joseph Goldstein brought Vipassana meditation to Western seekers, translating ancient practices into accessible, practical tools for daily life. Suddenly, meditation was no longer the realm of monks on mountaintops. It was being practiced in urban apartments, in schools, in hospitals, in prisons. Mindfulness, the secular wave. Perhaps the most striking transformation was the rise of mindfulness as a secular practice, inspired by Buddhist meditation but stripped of religious trappings. Mindfulness found its way into psychology, healthcare, and even corporate boardrooms. John Kabat-Zinn, a molecular biologist and founded the mindfulness-based stress reduction (MBSR) program in the 1970s, demonstrating that mindfulness could reduce chronic pain, anxiety, and depression. His work and that of others helped birth a global mindfulness movement. Today, you can download an app and learn to breathe, to sit, to notice. But here lies both a gift and a danger. Mindfulness, when disconnected from its ethical and philosophical roots, can become just another tool for productivity, for coping without questioning. The Buddha taught mindfulness not merely to calm the mind, but to awaken it to see the causes of suffering and to act with wisdom and compassion. Without these roots, mindfulness risks becoming a plaster over a festering wound. Engaged Buddhism, compassion in action at the same time. a powerful current of engaged Buddhism emerged, calling practitioners to bring the Dharma into the streets, into politics, into social justice. Thich Nhat Hanh, during the Vietnam War, refused to choose sides between communist or anti-communist. Instead, he founded the Order of Interbeing, emphasizing mindfulness, peace, and social action. His message, to meditate, is to awaken to the cries of the world. To sit on the cushion is also to stand up for justice. In our time of climate crisis, inequality, racism, and violence, engaged Buddhists remind us that to awaken is not to withdraw, but to return to the world with open eyes and an open heart. There is a story of the Bodhisattva of Avalokiteshvara, the one who hears the cries of the world. Legend says that upon hearing endless suffering, she shattered into 1,000 pieces, but the Buddha of infinite light restored her, giving her 1,000 arms to help, 1,000 eyes to see. This is the calling of the modern practitioner, to be Avalokiteshvara, to meet the brokenness of the world with presence and action. Buddhism and science. Another bridge between Buddhism and the West has been the dialogue with science, particularly neuroscience and psychology. The Dalai Lama has long engaged in conversations with scientists, exploring how meditation changes the brain, how compassion can be trained like a muscle, how perceptions shape our reality. Studies have shown that long-term meditators have increased gray matter in areas related to attention, emotional regulation, and empathy. Practices of loving kindness and compassion literally reshape the heart-mind. But science, with all its tools, can only go so far. It can measure brainwaves, but it cannot yet capture the direct, lived experience of awakening. Buddhism invites us not to wait for studies to confirm what practice reveals, that peace, clarity, and joy are not fantasies, but possibilities within each of us. The personal path. And so, dear friend, the question returns to you. In this noisy, rushing world, where do you find stillness? In a life of deadlines and distractions, how do you come home to yourself? Buddhism does not demand that you become a monk, that you renounce the world. It invites you to be present where you are, to eat your food with gratitude, to listen to your partner with full attention, to walk knowing the ground supports you. Drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the world turns. Thich Nhat Hanh. Even now, as you listen, take a breath. Feel the air entering your body. Notice its coolness. Feel the exhale, soft and warm. This breath is life. This breath is presence. A global Sangha Today. The Sangha, the community of practitioners, is no longer bound by geography. Through books, online teachings, retreats, and even conversations like this, we form a global Sangha web of seekers, each trying, stumbling, rising again, walking together. We are connected not just by the internet, but by the shared human condition. We love, we grieve, we wonder, we fear, and in that shared condition is the seed of compassion, the thread that binds us. The eternal invitation. And so the Buddha's invitation, across 2,500 years, remains: wake up to the beauty of the world, the flower blooming in the sidewalk, crack, the smile of a stranger, the silent strength of the stars. Wake up to the pain of the world, the refugee child, the dying forests, the aching loneliness so many carry. Wake up to your own heart, fragile yet fierce, broken yet healing, because to awaken is not to escape life. It is to enter life fully, seeing its sorrow and its splendor, and to live with a heart that is vast, free, and tender. As we prepare for the next part of our journey, we will delve deeper into the practices, meditation, mindfulness, loving. Make this awakening not just a dream, but a daily, living reality. Until then, take this moment, just this one, and rest in it. You are here, you are breathing, you are already on the path. We have journeyed far, dear listener, and with every step the path reveals not only the teachings of the Buddha, but the teachings of life itself. We have seen Buddhism's meeting with the modern world, the rise of mindfulness in schools and hospitals, the compassionate voices of engaged Buddhism, and the dialogues between monks and neuroscientists. But all these grand movements, all these global shifts, ultimately converge on something profoundly simple: the daily practice of awakening. What is awakening, if not the art of living fully awake to each moment? It is not a bolt of lightning, or a sudden escape from life's hardships. It is the gentle, persistent art of seeing clearly, feeling deeply, and loving boundlessly, right where we are. Let us now walk together through the most intimate practices of Buddhism, the ones that do not require robes, monasteries, or ancient languages. They only ask for a willing heart, a curious mind, and a little patience. Mindfulness. Returning home to the present. At the center of it all is mindfulness, the practice of paying attention, on purpose, to the present moment, with kindness and without judgment. This may sound simple, even trivial, but pause for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you truly tasted your food? The last time you listened to someone without rehearsing your reply? The last time you noticed your own breath? Life passes us by not because it is short, but because we are rarely present for it. We are chasing after the next email, the next task, the next worry, as though our peace lies somewhere just beyond the next corner. Mindfulness calls us home to this breath, this sensation, this sound. When you brush your teeth, just brush. When you walk, feel the ground under your feet. When you breathe, simply notice the in-breath, the out-breath. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches a beautiful, childlike gatha to accompany breathing. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. Simple, yes, but simplicity is often the doorway to the sacred. Meditation. The mirror of the mind. If mindfulness is the daily presence, meditation is the deep well where presence becomes profound clarity. In the Buddhist tradition, there are many forms of meditation, but at their heart, they share a common goal: to understand the nature of the mind. Let us sit together, even if just in imagination. Find a comfortable seat. Let the spine be tall, yet not rigid. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Breathe in, breathe out. Thoughts arise. The grocery list, the regret from yesterday, the worry about tomorrow. No matter. See them, acknowledge them, let them pass like clouds across a vast sky. The mind is a wild horse, untamed, restless. But with each breath, each gentle return to the present, we begin to see that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness in which thoughts come and go. Over time, meditation reveals something quietly extraordinary. Beneath the chatter, the fears, the desires, there is a stillness, a spaciousness that cannot be broken. This is your original home, your Buddha nature, loving kindness. Expanding the heart, but insight alone is not enough. What good is clarity if it is not paired with love? That is why the Buddha also taught metta bhavana, the cultivation of loving kindness. In this practice, we sit quietly and silently repeat phrases of goodwill, first to ourselves, then to others. May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be safe, may I live with ease. Then, extending this to loved ones. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you live with ease. Then, to neutral people, to those we struggle with, and finally to all beings everywhere. This simple practice rewires the heart. It melts the barriers we build between ourselves and others. It reminds us that every person, the stranger, the friend, the enemy, just wants to be happy, just wants to be free from suffering. In a world so fractured, so bitterly divided, loving kindness is not just a spiritual exercise, it is an act of resistance, a quiet revolution of the heart. Walking meditation, each step is a miracle. There is also the gentle, grounding practice of walking meditation, beloved by Thich Nhat Hanh and many traditions. As you walk, slowly and mindfully, you coordinate each step with the breath. Breathing in, I take a step. Breathing out, I smile. I have arrived. I am home. Each step becomes a kiss upon the earth, a reminder that we have nowhere to hurry, nothing to prove. The destination is not somewhere ahead, it is here. Underfoot. Compassion in action. These practices are not ends in themselves. They are training so that when life inevitably brings pain, injustice, or cruelty, we do not collapse or turn away. Instead, we respond with presence and compassion. When someone is hurting, can we offer a listening ear? When someone is angry, can we see their suffering beneath the rage? When we see injustice, can we act, not from hate, but from love? The great Bodhisattva vow is simple, yet immense. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. These are not just poetic words. They are a call to live wide awake, with a heart vast enough to hold the world. Daily life as practice. But what about the ordinary days, when enlightenment feels far away? When the traffic is loud, the inbox is full, the child is crying. This, too, is the path. Every act, washing dishes, folding laundry, driving to work, can be a meditation if done with full presence. The Zen master, Shunryu Suzuki, said, "Each time you sit, you are the Buddha. Each time you wash your face, you are the Buddha. Each time you are angry, you are the Buddha." There is no place to get to. Enlightenment is not a place, it is how we meet each moment. The community of practice find, though the path is walked alone, it is sustained together. A Sangha, whether in person or online, is the fertile soil where practice deepens. We need companions to remind us when we forget, to inspire us when we are weary, to celebrate the small awakenings together. You hear no and. So, dear listener, the practices are here, not distant, not esoteric, but as close as your next breath. What will you do with this breath, with this step, with this precious life? The Buddha's teachings are not relics of history. They are alive in you, right now, in your capacity to wake up, to see clearly, to love well. As we approach the final chapters of our journey together, we will explore the ethical foundations of the path, the challenges of practicing in a modern world, and the luminous potential of awakening in every one of us. But for now, take a deep breath, feel it, know that you are breathing, know that you are alive, that in that knowing, may you find peace. Welcome back, dear listener. Together, we have crossed the mountains of philosophy, waded through the rivers of practice, and sat by the lakes of mindfulness and loving kindness. And yet, the heart of Buddhism remains ever vast, its shores still, stretching beyond our gaze. In this part of our journey, let us sit a while with the ethical foundations of Buddhism, the precepts, the moral compass that has guided practitioners for millennia. For what is awakening if it does not ripple out into the way we live, the choices we make, the ways we touch the world and each other? The 5 precepts, the ethics of a mindful life, the very beginning of a Buddhist's path. Whether layperson or monastic, one is invited to embrace the 5 precepts. These are not commandments thundered from the sky, but rather commitments, gentle yet firm, that safeguard our lives and the lives of others. To refrain from killing living beings, to refrain from taking what is not given, to refrain from sexual misconduct, to refrain from false speech, to refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind. At first glance, these may seem simple, even obvious, but as we live with them, they unfold like lotus flowers, revealing deeper layers. Refraining from killing is not only about avoiding literal violence, it is an invitation to nurture life, to care for animals, to protect the environment, to see every being as worthy of respect. Not stealing expands into living with generosity, asking ourselves, what do I have that can ease another's burden? Right sexual conduct speaks to respect, consent, and responsibility, recognizing the sacredness of intimacy, never as a means of exploitation. Truthful speech is a daily challenge in a world swirling with lies, gossip, and half-truths. 2. Speak truth is to honor connection, to build trust. Avoiding intoxicants is not mere abstinence. It is a commitment to clarity, to being fully present rather than escaping into oblivion. The precepts are a mirror. They reflect our intentions, our shadows, our capacity for kindness. They are not about perfection, but about aspiration. A daily return to the question, am I living in a way that reduces harm and increases peace? The 10 wholesome actions in many Buddhist traditions, especially in the Mahayana. These ethical foundations expand into the 10 wholesome actions, which guide not only behavior but also speech and thought. 3 of the body, refrain from killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. 4 of speech, refrain from lying, divisive speech, harsh words, and idle chatter. 3 of mind, avoid covetousness, ill will, and wrong views. Imagine if, just for a day, we each held these in our heart. Imagine the peace, the gentleness, the trust that could blossom between us. Karma and responsibility. Why does ethics matter? Because of karma, the law of cause and effect. In Buddhism, karma is not fate, not some cosmic punishment. It is simply the understanding that every action, every word, every thought shapes us and the world around us. When we lie, even a small lie, we erode the trust others place in us, and we feel the fracture inside ourselves. When we speak kindly, we strengthen bonds. We water the seeds of goodwill. We are the architects of our lives. Karma reminds us that we cannot control everything, but we can always choose our response. With our thoughts, we make the world. The Dhammapada, the paramitas, the perfections of the Bodhisattva for those on the Bodhisattva path, the vow to awaken for the benefit of all beings. The ethical life is framed not just in precepts, but in the cultivation of the 6 paramitas, or perfections: generosity, dana, giving without expectation of return; ethical conduct, sila, living with integrity; patience, kshanti, bearing difficulties with grace; joyful effort, virya, cultivating energy and diligence; meditation, dhyana, deepening concentration and insight; wisdom, prajna, seeing reality as it is. These are not mere virtues, they are transformative forces. Each one practiced earnestly erodes the ego, the grasping, the self-centeredness that keeps us trapped in suffering. Imagine generosity not just as giving money, but as giving time, giving attention, giving a smile. Imagine patience not as mere endurance, but as the flowering of a heart unshaken by storms. Facing the challenges of modern life, but living ethically in the modern world, is no small task. How do we live without harm in a world built on exploitation? How do we speak truth in a culture drowning in misinformation? How do we stay present in an economy that thrives on distraction? The Buddha never promised that the path would be easy, but he did promise that it is possible. The precepts, the paramitas, the awareness of karma, these are our tools, our compass. And when we stumble we return gently to the path. In Buddhism, there is no eternal damnation, no unforgivable sin. There is only the next breath, the next step, the next chance to begin again. Living ethically as a form of awakening. Ethics in Buddhism is not about rule, it is about waking up. Every time we choose kindness over cruelty, honesty over deceit, patience over anger, we polish the mirror of the mind. We see ourselves more clearly, we see others more clearly, and in that seeing, wisdom blossoms. To avoid all evil, to cultivate good, to purify the mind, this is the teaching of all Buddhas. The Dhammapada, this is the path, not just to a personal peace, but to a world where peace is possible. You are the path, so I ask you, dear friend, what kind of world do you want to help create? With each choice, each word, each thought, you are shaping it. You are shaping yourself. The ethical teachings of Buddhism are not dusty relics. They are alive, pulsing in every moment we choose compassion, honesty, generosity. This is the quiet revolution the Buddha spoke of, not with banners or swords, but with hearts wide open. As we continue, we will explore the nature of awakening itself. What does it mean to be enlightened? Is it some distant, ethereal state, or is it as close as this breath, this heartbeat, this moment of kindness? We will walk that path together into the heart of awakening. Welcome back, dear friend. We have walked far, haven't we? Together, we have wandered from the ancient groves where the Buddha first taught, through centuries of wisdom, practice, and compassion, all the way into the ethics that shape our daily lives. But now, we arrive at a question that has echoed across generations, across cultures, and perhaps has stirred quietly in your own heart. What is awakening? What does it truly mean to be enlightened? Is it some unreachable peak atop a misty mountain, a shimmering state reserved for saints and sages? Or is it, as many teachers suggest, as close and familiar as our own breath, our own awareness, if only we knew how to see? Let us sit together, just as the Buddha once sat beneath the Bodhi tree, and explore this mystery slowly, deeply, tenderly. The awakening of the Buddha first. We must return to the beginning, to that night in Bodh Gaya, when Siddhartha sat determined, vowing not to rise until he had pierced through the veil of suffering. Through the watches of the night, he saw the endless cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. He saw how beings are bound by karma, how actions lead to consequences, and how ignorance, not malevolence, but simple unknowing, keeps us trapped in suffering. As the morning star rose, Siddhartha awakened. But what did he awaken to? He saw reality as it truly is, impermanent, interdependent, empty of any fixed self. He saw that clinging leads to suffering, that letting go brings freedom, that all beings carry within them the capacity to awaken. In that moment, he became the Buddha, the awakened one. But enlightenment was not a private treasure he hoarded. He spent the next 45 years teaching, sharing, walking among kings and beggars alike, pointing not to himself, but to the path each of us can walk. What is enlightenment? Across Buddhist traditions, enlightenment is described in many ways. Nirvana, the extinguishing of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. Bodhi, awakening, the clear seeing of reality. Satori in Zen, a sudden flash of insight, a direct experience of one's true nature. But beyond words, what is it? Enlightenment is not about becoming superhuman. It is not about gaining magical powers or retreating from the world. Instead, it is the simple, profound realization that there is no separate self, only interbeing. Clinging and aversion create suffering. Everything is impermanent, ever-changing. Awareness itself is vast, spacious, and free. Imagine waking from a dream, realizing that what you took as solid was just mist and shadow. That is enlightenment, waking up to the fluid, fleeting, interconnected nature of all things, gradual or sudden. Some traditions speak of a gradual path, cultivated through years of practice, meditation, ethical living, wisdom. Like polishing a mirror, bit by bit, the grime is wiped away. Others, like Zen, speak of sudden enlightenment, a sharp, jarring moment where the mind shatters its illusions in a flash of insight. A monk hears the sound of a pebble striking bamboo, and suddenly, they are free. Which is it? Both, perhaps. Even those who experience sudden awakenings often speak of the need for continued practice, for the insight to deepen and integrate. Enlightenment is not a finish line. It is an opening, a beginning. The marks of the awakened. How do we recognize an awakened person? Not by their robes, their titles, or their charisma, but by their presence. They are deeply compassionate, seeing all beings as kin. They are patient, unshaken by praise or blame. They are joyful, not because life is perfect, but because they are free from needing it to be. They live simply, humbly, authentically. They are like a clear lake, reflecting everything, clinging to nothing. Awakening in daily life. Fanned, here is the most beautiful truth. Awakening is not distant. Every time you catch yourself before speaking in anger, that is a glimpse of awakening. Every time you feel the urge to grasp or push away, but instead breathe and stay, that is awakening. Every time you see the impermanence of a moment, joy, sorrow, pain, delight, and let it pass without clinging, that is awakening. The Buddha himself said, "Better than 100 years lived without wisdom is one day lived with insight." Awakening is available in each moment, in each breath, in each act of kindness. Barriers to awakening, yet, why do we not awaken? What clouds are seeing? Ignorance, we do not see reality clearly. Desire, we cling, wanting life to be other than. It is aversion, we push away what we dislike. Fear, we are afraid to let go, to trust the unknown. But Buddhism teaches that these clouds are not permanent, like mist before the morning sun. They can and will disperse with practice. Awakening and the modern world. In the modern world, enlightenment is often misunderstood. It is sometimes marketed as a product, a quick fix, a personal achievement, but real awakening is not about ego. It is about dissolving the very idea of I and mine. It is about seeing that we are not isolated bubbles of consciousness, but waves in the vast ocean of being. It is not an escape from the world's pain, but a profound engagement with it, with clarity, compassion, and courage. You are already on the path, and so, dear friend, I offer you this. You are already on the path. If you have ever wondered about the nature of life, if you have ever felt a longing for peace, if you have ever wished to live with more kindness, then the seeds of awakening are already within you. Do not need to seek far or wait for a perfect moment. This breath is the door. This step is the path. This heart is the temple. As we prepare to enter the final part of our journey together, we will explore what it means to live as an awakened being, not as a distant ideal, but as a living, breathing reality in the middle of a messy, beautiful world. Until then, breathe gently. You are already home. Welcome, my dear friend. We have arrived, the 10th and final step of this shared journey. But as the Buddha himself might remind us, endings are but new beginnings. The path does not end here, nor does it end when a story finishes or a video fades to black. No, the path, the Dharma, is always underfoot, in every breath, every choice, every moment of waking up. So let us walk this last mile together, not as student and teacher, not as guide and follower, but as two companions, pausing for a moment, looking back at where we've come, gazing forward into the vastness yet to be explored. What does it mean to live an awakened life? Perhaps this is the real question that has followed us all along, not merely what is awakening, but how shall I live now, knowing what I know? We've touched the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the precepts, the perfections, and we've glimpsed what awakening might be. A clarity of seeing, a heart free from the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. But how does this look in our daily lives? Is the awakened life lived only by monks on misty mountains, by nuns in quiet cloisters, by solitary hermits beneath Bodhi trees? Or is it lived by you who wakes each morning to the sound of an alarm clock, who navigates traffic, work deadlines, heartbreaks, hopes, and emails? The truth is, an awakened life is lived right where you are. It is not about escaping the world, but seeing the world clearly, tenderly, bravely. It is about returning, again and again, to presence, to awareness, to compassion, the hallmarks of an awakened life. So how might you recognize such a life? How might you know that you are, in fact, walking the Buddha's path, a heart of compassion? You find yourself pausing when someone suffers. Your instinct, more and more, is to ask, how can I help? Even if help is simply listening, a mind of clarity. You notice when thoughts arise, worries, judgments, cravings, and instead of being swept away, you observe them like clouds passing in a vast sky. The spirit of joy, not the fleeting thrill of pleasure, but a deep, abiding joy, the kind that arises from simply being alive, being awake to the miracle of existence. A life of simplicity. You begin to let go of what is unnecessary. You value time over possessions, connection over competition, presence over distraction, courage in the face of suffering. When pain arises, personal or collective, you do not look away. You stay, you breathe, you respond with whatever wisdom you have cultivated. The practice never ends, and yet let us be honest, even the awakened stumble, even the wise get lost. The difference is, they know how to return to sit, to breathe, to remember. Thich Nhat Hanh speaks of coming home to ourselves, to the present moment, to the reality that we are already enough, already whole, even with our cracks and scars. This is why practice is lifelong, not because we are defective, but because life itself is a constant flow, always offering new challenges, new joys, new lessons. The community, Sangha 1, walks this path alone. The Buddha taught the importance of the Sangha, the community of practice. In modern life, your Sangha might be a meditation group, a circle of friends, an online community, or even a single companion who shares the same aspirations. We hold each other up. We remind each other when we forget. We celebrate each small awakening together. Just as a single stick of incense burns and gives fragrance, together, a whole room glows when many gather to practice. Find your Sangha, or be the beginning of one. The world needs awakened hearts. Never forget. Your awakening is not just for you. The world aches for it. Every act of kindness ripples. Every moment of mindfulness prevents harm. Every awakened heart helps shift the collective consciousness. When you choose to respond with compassion instead of anger, the world changes. When you refuse to dehumanize others, the world heals. When you live with integrity, the world remembers its goodness. In the Mahayana tradition, the Bodhisattva vows not to cross into final liberation until all beings are free. This is not just poetry, it is a radical commitment to love. You are already enough. So often we chase awakening as if it were a prize, as if we must perfect ourselves before we are worthy. But listen closely, you are already enough, not because you are flawless, but because you are alive, aware, capable of love and learning. The Buddha was not a god, he was a human, just like you, who discovered the power of attention, of compassion, of wisdom. You have that same capacity, right here, right now. The final invitation. And so, dear friend, I leave you with this. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, feel the life within you pulsing, breathing, being. Then open your eyes, see the world not just as scenery, but as kin, alive, impermanent, precious. Walk gently, speak kindly, love fiercely. You do not have to be perfect. You only need to be present. This is the path. This is the teaching. This is awakening. And wherever you walk from here, know that the Buddha walks with you, not as a shadow behind, but as the light within. Thank you for walking this journey with me. May you be happy. May you be free. May you awaken to your deepest, truest self.